Variable Progression Rate, or VPR, is one of the many procedures that the Queensland Curriculum and Assessment Authority offers to schools to accommodate the varied way students engage in the senior phase of learning. In this example, a VPR student is a non-sample folio exiting the subject in 2014 as a proposed HA7 and is exiting the school in 2015. In 2014, even though there were 12 students in the class, the school submits the exiting cohort's Form R6, with only the 11 students leaving the school at the end of 2014. The school will attach a photocopied Form R6 and has proposed the VPR student level of achievement at HA7. The principal has signed both forms. Note also that the review panel chair has accurately completed verification. Both forms are signed and completed by the review panel chair once agreement has been reached with the school. The VPR student is subject to Form R7 procedures in 2014 if changes are required after post-verification assessment is completed. However, the student will not be subject to any panel advice offered for the exiting cohort in 2015. In 2015, the school has only 9 students in the class. However, they submit the exiting cohort Form R6 with all 10 students leaving the school at the end of 2015. They attach the completed photocopied Form R6 and transfer the student onto the same rung placement as agreed during the 2014 verification and any R7 process. The principal has signed both forms. Note that the student must be included in the initial column when the Form R6 is sent to verification, though the student is not subject to the process. This is because all students in the Year 12 cohort who have completed study of at least one semester of an approved schoolwork program must be placed as a sample or as a non-sample on the Form R6. Let's briefly recap this scenario. In 2014, the VPR student is represented by a non-sample folio in the year in which they completed the course. The VPR Form R6 was a photocopy to distinguish it from the Form R6. All forms are signed by the review panel chair and the principal. In 2014, the school has used school comments to note the attachment of a VPR Form R6. This is helpful but not required. The school has correctly followed the sampling pattern. In 2014, the VPR Form R6 goes with the green Form R6 to verification, but the VPR student does not appear on the green 2014 R6. Any advice from this verification should be applied to the VPR student if it is relevant. In 2015, the VPR student folio was not included in the sampling pattern because the student did not complete the subject with this cohort, and the folio has already been through the moderation process. The review panel chair will check and note that the student is correctly placed on the Form R6 at HA7. Any advice from the panel about HA folios on this Form R6 will not be applied to this student. And in 2015, the VPR student appears on the Form R6, but is not subject to any further moderation advice. This is the second in a series of 4 videos explaining the VPR procedure. The first video in this series describes the VPR procedure, while the second, third, and fourth videos demonstrate worked examples of students undertaking studies through a variable progression rate procedure.